All right, it looks like we're streaming live.
All right, folks, you are listening to the Library Advisory Board from Salem, Oregon. We are hardworking community members making your library a fabulous place. Let's start out. I'm Lois Stark. I am chair of the Library Advisory Board for at least one more month. Let's do some introductions. Norm.
Certainly. Norman Wright, Community Development Director for the City of Salem.
Okay. Bella.
Hi, I'm Bella. I'm part of the Teen Advisory Board. My name is Bella. My pronouns are she, her. I go to South Salem High School and I'm a senior there.
Great. Thank you, Bella. Katherine. You were muted, Katherine.
Katherine, you're on mute.
There we go. I'm Katherine Daniels, member of the Library Advisory Board.
Thank you. And Avery?
Hello, I'm Avery. I go to North Salem High School. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm a junior there.
Great. Thank you, Avery. Gretchen?
I'm Gretchen Coppage, and I'm a member of the Library Advisory Board.
Thank you. Sarah?
Sarah Strahl, City Librarian with the City of Salem.
Sonia?
Hi, I'm Sonia Somerville. I'm the Teen Services Librarian and my pronouns are she, her.
Callan?
Callan Sterling, and I'm a member of the Library Advisory Board.
Okay, great. There's nobody else on my screen. Am I missing someone?
Clarissa and Darcy haven't had a chance.
Okay, Clarissa?
My name's Clarissa and I'm with the library.
Thank you. And Darcy?
Hi, everybody. I'm Darcy Hanning. I'm the public library consultant from the State Library.
Great. So everyone's here. Let's do approval of minutes. Everyone got the minutes and read them very effectively. So I will entertain a motion for approval of minutes unless there's any corrections.
I move to approve the minutes.
I second it.
Great. The minutes have been put up for approval and seconded. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
If anyone is opposed, say nay. Okay. The minutes have been approved. Is there anybody on that wants to do a public comment? Or did we receive any comments? I guess not.
Clarissa, did we get anything in email?
No emails.
Okay, great. All right. So now we will hear from our Teens Advisory Board, Avery and Bella. Take it away.
Okay, hi, I'm Avery from the Teen Advisory Board. I guess I'll go first. So we've been working on a couple things and I'm going to tell you about some of them. So we've started something called the Teen Awesome Band, which has the initials of TAB, the Teen Advisory Board. So a lot of our members on the Teen Advisory Board are in like band in school. So we decided to get together and make our own band concerning the library. And currently we are working on making sort of a music video over Zoom, something like that. We're still working out the details, but we're doing a cover of the song YMCA, but it's called At the Library, and it's sort of a promotional library song with a bunch of kids playing instruments and having fun and goofing around. And so that should be coming sometime in the future. Again, we're trying to work out details of like how to edit it all together and get everyone's recording done and sent to everyone else and all that stuff. But once we get that figured out, hopefully it'll turn out really good and it'll be really fun. The other thing that happened was last week, there was a live streamed talent show to replace the normal talent show that we hold in the Laux auditorium. I think I'm saying that right, the library auditorium. So 3 of our tab members were featured in the talent show. We had 9 acts total and featured a lot of middle school and high school people performing things.
Following the trend of naming things in the acronym of TAB, we have a book list coming up called These Awesome Books You Should Read, because a group of highly qualified teen book nerds said to. We've been spending the past month writing and submitting annotations for the list, and tomorrow we'll be talking about creating a video to launch and promote the list. Also, TAB applications have closed for the summer. TAB subcommittee will be interviewing potential new members later this month. We have 6 openings on the board and 13 applicants, so wish us luck. Deciding this will be really hard, but it will be fun and we'll meet some new people.
Great, thank you, Bella and Avery. Does anyone have questions for these 2 people? Okay, thanks for giving us that update. You're welcome to stay on and listen to our exciting meeting, but I would understand if you want to play video games or watch a good movie. So, great, thanks. Chair's report. I'm going to just have a brief report. I took a tour last week of what's happening with our library renovations, and it was fabulous. And Norm was there, and Sarah was there, and lots of other people were there. And I just can't tell you how I think it's going to be so great. So much more light. These 3 cutout windows, I just think it's going to be really, really nice. So I just wanted to say that. I also wanted to give a little update about the library subcommittee meeting that I went to on July 17th. So we talked about the building and how it's on schedule, a little bit about the funding. But the main thing to me was the talk about parking. And at our previous meeting, we were given 3 options, and none of those options were mentioned at the meeting of the subcommittee. So that was a little disconcerting. And since we had taken a unanimous vote, I stuck with our recommendation for the 3 hours of free parking. And so Councillor Hoy from the City Council was there, and he said, let's just wait. We're not making a decision right now. And so I wanted you to know that background when we start talking about parking fees. City Librarian's report. Oh, did anybody have any questions for me? Okay.
So I submitted mine through the agenda packet as per usual, and I wanted to know if how you guys felt about the dashboard with the statistics. And I really want to give kudos to Karen Kinsey and Christopher Rumbaugh, who created that beautiful dashboard for us. And, you know, it takes some of the statistics that the State Library and that we've been working on taking. The State Library was looking for, so Ross Fuqua there does a lot of statistics. So he's been guiding libraries right now about how to interact with statistics in this very weird time of COVID. So Darcy, please thank Ross for us. And I'm sure we've already thanked him several times, but we will. And Clarissa, you are texting me. I am guessing that that person is Bill. So yes, add them in. Go ahead, because I can't text you back right now. Anyway, so yeah, that's pretty much what I've got, and just want to know feedback on the dashboard. Nothing much has changed. I did visit the library again today. Hey, it's Francine. And that was very, very exciting. The other thing that has been going on is that we also had lab applicants, and I've been just having some casual chats with those lab applicants because I always, some of you, Gretchen and Katherine, I chatted with you before you were appointed, and I just like to get to know the folks and what their goals are, and kind of explain the process and how it works being on lab 2 and give them some resources. So I've been refining how those chats go, and I really appreciate everybody that I got to talk to. They all had great ideas, great things that they wanted to share, and just were very passionate about the library and library services. So I'm very excited. And the boards and commissions meeting will be, it sounds like mid to late September, to appoint those folks, recommend the appointment, and then it'll go to the larger council. So we'll have those 2 vacancies filled at some point. Yes, Katherine.
I've got a question about part of your report, the reference to the collection expansion project.
Yeah.
And I wondered if you could just describe it a little bit more.
So it's basically kind of what a lot of libraries would think of as a kind of an opening day collection, but we already have a collection that goes in that building. So, and it's in storage right now. So we're looking at some of the places in the collection, doing some analysis with Collection HQ to see where we can add more to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the community and have fresh and interesting items for the community in this new opening, when we open the new building. So it'll be in different areas, and there will be just a general addition, and we're looking at funding sources and things like that to identify where we can pull some funding, some extra funding to add more titles. It's typically called an opening day collection, but because we already have a collection, we're looking at filling in gaps more than starting a new collection. Does that make sense?
Is it different from the normal acquisition process that you do every year?
It's going to be more, yeah, it's going to be more intensive selection. And really trying to identify the gaps. So it would be more than just our regular selection process.
Is it in addition?
Yeah, it's in addition to our normal acquisitions process. And it's extra budget funds for that.
Okay, so where are the gaps?
Well, they're working on identifying those. I don't have a great sense of all of the gaps yet because they're working on identifying them. Some of them's probably going to come from more diversity audit type things and stuff like that. So it's just the start of the project at this point. Are there gaps that you're concerned about us filling, Katherine?
Potentially, I would just be interested in knowing, more about which areas of the library are going to be filled in.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a comprehensive look across the board at things in, youth through adult materials. And there are areas where we probably only have 1 or 2 titles that the community has more interest than that. We've heard before that we needed more LGBTQ titles. So we had purchased more LGBTQ titles already, but there may be more need that we need to meet there. So we'll, I'll see if Emily could maybe do a report or give us some more information as we go along for the city librarians report to highlight some of those areas that they'll be filling in.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sarah, I had a question about the dashboard. So I'm thinking that the dashboard might look a little different when we actually are back to the in-place library.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it would probably look different. Although there are some things I think that we've started doing because of COVID that we may continue doing. You know, but we will probably see changes when we move back into Maine and when we're not in a pandemic situation anymore. Yeah.
Okay.
But if there's anything in particular that you do like or that you want to know more about or anything like that, please let us know. It doesn't have to be right in the middle of this meeting, but if you have any feedback on that, you know, we want to give you that report quarterly. And so, or a report like it quarterly. So if there, and that's what you guys had kind of asked for. So we want to make sure that it actually is meeting your information needs.
I'd like to know specifically, like how many reference type calls we get quarterly. You know, like if somebody calls up and says, you know, who was the 45th president of the United States? Although people probably don't do that anymore with Google, but
no, people do. We get those kinds of questions. We get readers advisory questions a lot in the vein of, I really liked this one red book with a blue lettering, and also, can you tell me 10 authors that are like that author? So we get a lot of those kinds of questions, but we do still get, you know, not everybody has access to the internet, and and even people who may have access still aren't necessarily savvy. There's a lot of ways the digital divide can look, and so there is a good process for them to just call us up and ask us the questions that they're looking for. And I do want to say that that is one of the things we're focusing on. Library Express is currently on hold, but we are focusing on how to bridge the digital divide in a more meaningful way for patrons who don't have computers and Wi-Fi and things like that. We're starting a project team to think about how we do that if we can't open the doors to the library for a while, which seems to be the case. We will have a way to get those services to our patrons. So
great.
That's one of our things. Yeah, we're working on it.
Francine, go ahead.
I thought that your report was fantastic, and you and your staff have done an amazing job of including as many people from the community as I never would have thought possible. I watched the talent show and really enjoyed it. And then I watched your, at your suggestion, the update on the construction with the engineer and the builder. And I just really want to thank you for that, because you guys had no roadmap. You've had to create it, and you are to be applauded.
Thank you very, very much, Francine. I really appreciate that. And I know the staff will be really happy to hear that. Thank you.
Callan's clapping. Yeah, I really like the idea of the reading the book as you go through the park. I had a lot of people tell me just that I know that they thought that that was such a really cool idea. So that's neat.
The story walks were really one of the things that we got a lot of really great feedback on, and I'm really proud that we were able to do that. And we had fun doing them, but I think a lot of people got a lot of enjoyment. Like when our staff would go to clean off the signs and stuff, they'd see kids like walking up and like sticking their face like right next to the little posters and stuff like that. So very exciting.
Nice. Any other questions for Sarah? Okay, I don't know if Carol's here. Is anybody from the Friends of the Library here?
I don't see Carol.
Yeah, I don't think so. The foundation report, I have some sad news that Louise, who was our liaison to the foundation and our vice chair, moved out of Salem. So she had to resign her position. So we don't, at this point, have a liaison to the foundation. And I'm not sure, but I think they don't have an August meeting. Is that right, Sarah? Anyway,
sorry. I believe
we
that
don't.
they have I think you're right. They don't have an August meeting. They have an early September meeting.
Right.
So they're going to be meeting in early September, but there is still work going on, including some grant applications that are exciting and things like that, that I will report on next time.
Okay. And our elections are in September, and then that will not line up nicely because we can elect a liaison to the foundation.
Carol just joined us, by the way, Lois.
Oh, Carol, would you like to give a short talk about the Friends?
I can, okay, there, I think I'm
We could hear you and then you muted again.
How about now?
We can hear.
Yay, thank you. Hi, everybody. The only thing I have to report is that the store is closed until Tuesday. One of our volunteers' mother tested positive. We actually don't think that anybody's got any issues, but you know, abundance of caution. So that's the report.
I'm sorry to hear that, Carol.
Well,
and you guys aren't
yeah.
having a meeting this month, right?
That's correct.
Right.
Didn't I send you that email?
You did. I'm just confirming it.
Okay. I was trying to be so good.
Well, thanks, Carol, for your report. Yeah, sorry to hear about your volunteer's mother. And yeah, better to be safe and shut down for until tomorrow. Any questions
Tuesday.
for Carol?
Next Tuesday.
Oh, next Tuesday. Okay. Tomorrow. Okay, we're on to discussion items, and without objection, I would like to kind of change the lineup and do the bridge plan first and parking fees second. Is there any objection to that? Okay. So bridge plan, I put that on the list because I got a copy of the bridge plan, and I'm not sure that we ever got this. People, board members, did we get this?
I thought I sent it to you, but if I didn't, I apologize because I really thought I did. So I am happy. I have it up on my screen and can send it to everybody right now, but I thought I sent it in June or May or June.
You sent it to me, but
oh, was it just you, Lois?
Yeah, I also don't think we ever got a copy of it before it was put into place, because it's in place now, right?
It is, and it's in place because we want to switch gears and start focusing on the new RFP and the new strategic plan, and Darcy can speak more to this. She's here to answer your questions about the plan, and I will put it up on the screen if anybody is interested. But for the most part, it's built off of a plan that had lots of community input from 2013 to 2018 and was passed by the lab. So it's really just taking that plan and turning it and just grabbing some of the things that we felt like we hadn't quite accomplished in terms of the goals and initiatives, and finding some ways to further those while we're working on getting a more robust and new, fresh strategic plan for the next 3 to 5 years in place with that RFP process and a further longer process until summer, until we're ready to move back into the building. Hopefully we'll have the process done and a new strategic plan in place at that point. So it doesn't change the mission, vision, or values. They're still the same as they were from 2013 to 2018. It only changes, it just pulls out some of the initiatives and the goals that we had before and highlights how we can meet those and expand on those.
Okay, on page 3 of the bridge plan, it says how this bridge plan was created. And it says the library advisory board were shown these opportunities and we rated them on a scale from 1 to 10. Does anybody remember us doing that? Say, go like this if you don't remember us doing it, or like this if you do remember us doing it. No. So I guess my concern is that, I mean, I know we're already in this plan. Is that something happened?
I just put the bridge plan on there. I just put
Okay.
it on the screen for screen sharing. And it was a survey sent out, and it was sent out a really long time ago. It was something like 2018. Darcy, do you remember when we actually created and sent out that plan? Or that, I mean, this was a really long time ago, Lois.
Yeah, it was at least a year and a half ago. So it's been quite a while. I'm looking to see if I can, yeah, I don't see the date on our.
Yeah, what I'm saying is we didn't do it.
Well, it's possible that you may have done it and not realized it, because I do know the survey went out to quite a few people. In fact, it looks like, so Sarah, I'm looking at the summary results document that we put together, and it says boards, and then 11 out of about 30 responded.
Right.
Does that
It
sound
got sent
about right?
to, yes. It got sent to the Friends Foundation and Lab.
And so from those 3 groups, there were 11 responses. And it would have looked like a series of programs and services and initiatives, and then and kind of a description after each one, and then an opportunity to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10 as to how well you thought the library had completed or met those initiatives. And the reason why this came about was when we looked at shortening the length of time that the strategic plan would cover, Norm brought up a really good point that, you know, so what actually got completed from the last strategic plan, and was there any pertinent information or ideas from that plan that should move forward? So Sarah put together that survey based on that older plan. And from that, it kind of 4 areas kind of rose to the top as far as not really being completed or done. I think the other folks that had input were staff. And I'm not sure, and I apologize, Sarah, what LLT stands for? Sarah?
That stands for Library Leadership Team.
Okay, so the management team, and yeah. So probably got about 20 or so responses, all told.
So I guess, Lois, are you concerned about the results areas? Are you wanting us to reconsider and redo this? Or do you want me to just send this out to the group? Because I apologize, I thought I had, and I don't know how I missed that. So I'm really sorry, Lois. I thought I sent it out to the group, not just you. And I would like to make sure you guys have the chance to make whatever you know, thoughts that you have on it and talk about it. But, you know, I am going to start focusing most of my energy on the next strategic plan and really focusing on the RFP. So, so I'm willing to do whatever it is you'd like me to do. I just want to know what direction you want me to take it. And I will send everybody a copy of the bridge plan tonight.
Okay, that would be good. Can you take the bridge plan off for right now? Because I want to see the board so I can see if anybody has a question. I can't see anybody right now except for Katherine.
It will let me, I'm minimized right now for some reason. There we go. I will stop sharing. There we go.
Okay. Well, I agree that obviously we need to focus on the strategic plan. I guess my concern is that I have some questions about terminology. And here's what I'm thinking. I'm just going to say what I think, and then other people can say what they want to say about the bridge plan. I'm thinking that if everybody gets a copy of the bridge plan, then if there's questions about it, we can bring it to the next meeting. Because there's something like project outcomes. I don't know what that is. Something about completion of challenges. What is this in the measures? And since I don't feel like we saw this before it was enacted, I kind of want to make sure that we know what it's all about. And so now I will open it up for questions from other people.
Well, can you hear me? I remember filling out that survey about, I don't know, a year and a half ago. And I understood it to be an evaluation of how the existing strategic plan had been implemented. But it would have been nice to see the actual survey results and how they were interpreted to be presented in the bridge plan.
So Darcy mentioned that we have a summary document. Darcy,
let me send the URL. Let's see. I'll send you the URL.
Yeah, so we can send you that summary as well to the group.
To the whole lab?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It'll be in the chat and everyone can see it, and then click on it and it'll bring up a Google Doc.
Okay.
In your web browser.
Thank you.
Clarissa will need to make sure that we get that recorded for the minutes.
And in that document, Sarah compiled the results into like one big group of all the results, and then she broke down the results based on respondents groups. So like LLT, the boards, and then staff. And her approach to taking a look at that data was to kind of identify things that were rated 5 and below as far as how complete they were, and then kind of consider things that were rated 6 and above overall as done enough, because we knew that this would be a short plan. And so if you tried to tackle everything that wasn't an 8, 9, or 10, you'd be pretty much replicating the original strategic plan. So the idea was to focus on the things that were least completed. And so from that came those 4 key areas. And those, I believe those 4 key areas are using the same wording as the previous strategic plan, if I remember correctly.
And we may have put in, I mean, because it was more of a continuation of a plan and more for internal staff guidance because of that. Some of the terminology, you're right, is probably pretty confusing. Project outcome, we are happy to maybe write up a key or something like that so that that terminology is more explained.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we'll move on to parking fees. Francine, you had put this on the agenda, and as well as me, so you want to go first?
Sure. When we were presented with 3 options at our June meeting for our consideration regarding parking fees, I don't think we had time, or at least I don't recall that we made any recommendation regarding anything beyond the 3 hours of free parking for patrons. But we didn't refine our thoughts further to say whether the evening current free parking in the evening would be continue to be free or not part of that 3 hour. And what about Sundays? So I didn't know if we needed to come up with an supplementary or additional comment that about our what we would recommend. So so basically it's my question to the group would be, should we make a statement beyond the 3 hours of free patron parking to specify that we endorse continuing free parking in the
I think you're muted now.
I think we lost her.
Francine, we lost you.
No.
Oh, there she is.
There you go.
Yeah. What did you? I'm sorry. I have when I'm in Salem, my Zoom doesn't work as well. So did you lose it all?
We lost
just the last little bit.
Yeah.
So basically, do we want to add a supplementary statement to our endorsement of 3 hours of free parking to include continuing evening free parking as not part of that 3 hours? And Sunday free parking to be continued.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Anybody else want to weigh in on that? Callan says yes. Gretchen, okay. Bill, are you there somewhere? Hello, Bill. So it looks like we would like to add that the 3 hours free parking is our recommendation, plus continued Sundays free and evenings free every day, or every day. Is that a consensus? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I was reading the minutes and I read that I had said I was going to write a letter about our recommendations, and I did not do that. That is bad on me. I did not do it because I thought this parking question would go to the city council, and at that point then we would say this is our recommendation. And so I did not write a letter, but I could, but maybe we need to hear from Norm first.
Well, sure. Happy to. Thank you, Lois. As you mentioned earlier, you all had a conversation about this at the last meeting in which there were 3 options. And at the time, those were the 3 most viable options that both Sarah and I had. And then I want to say it was within about maybe 24 hours of your all's meeting that the options that were really available for us as a staff to consider changed. And it was part of a broader discussion with urban development, who manages parking, as well as, of course, our budget offices and officers rather. And so we then, following that change, had a new update for our subcommittee meeting, which met next, in which, like you say, Lois, you received new information that you hadn't had. Sarah received new information that she hadn't had as well, leading up to that meeting. And we went in to the subcommittee meeting with an initial thought, an initial recommendation as a staff for 90 minutes of free parking instead of 3 hours. At that meeting, as you put it, Councillor Hoy was one of the first to say that, you know, all of this has great potential. It is all very exciting, but let's tee it up again later for a more formal discussion, which was the right thing to do. And that's why I'm here tonight, is both myself and Sarah to tee up this topic one more time with the options that we know as a staff to be firm for us, as well as an opportunity for you all to discuss those and any other questions you have on your current recommendation that you've just now covered. So again, I want to reiterate that there's a couple of really important things here that I see ahead. Number one, Lois, you mentioned this need to perhaps write a letter we very much want to make a process here that allows you all as the Library Advisory Board to let your recommendation, whatever it be fully and accurately presented to not only the council, but also to the subcommittee who's going to consider this as well. So whether it be a letter of recommendation or the language that we put in a staff report that we're currently drafting, one thing is clear: your all's position, whatever it does become, even if it continues to be what it is right now, is something that's going to go forward with 100% clarity to, again, the subcommittee as well as the council. That's very important to Sarah and I both. Secondly, before we do that, we did want to set this up for one more conversation so that you all can see and hear the constraints and perspective that we've developed as a staff. That is a representation of the city's organization of what we can recommend as the best course. And that will be at odds with, the 3-hour recommendation, but we'll do our best to explain why so that you can at least see where we're coming from, knowing that, again, regardless, we're carrying your recommendation as well as ours forward to those two bodies, even if they happen to be diverging in some shape or form. So with that, again, we want to reset this conversation for you so that you get all the information that we have since gotten after the last meeting that you all had on the topic. And so Sarah's got a presentation to just tee this up again. Some of this will be very familiar to you probably. We want to answer any questions that you have. We want to give you all a chance to, again, just reassert what's going to be your position so that we can take that forward clearly for the subcommittee and for our staff report. And then we'll keep you apprised as we move forward onward from subcommittee to council. So this is where I think I'm going to try to hand it off to Sarah to do this quick presentation that she has on the parking and all the information that we now have more firmly in hand.
Yes, thank you, Norm. And here is Lois. This presentation may look familiar, although it's now adjusted to meet the topic at hand more accurately. But, library parking is something that since I have been a part of Salem Public Library, I have heard a lot about from lab and from the community. So I really want it to be understood that we take it very, very seriously, and access and usage of the library, we feel like is improved by us tackling this issue. So, just to kind of outline and make sure we're all thinking about the same common issues. We know that the technology is outdated, and the technology that we currently have cannot stay where it is. We know that because we know that people have to run out and get quarters or can't go to the library if they don't have enough change, or they have to go into the library, ask for change, go back to their car. In that time, they could have gotten a ticket. There's all sorts of issues with the technology. And so we want to address that technology issue. And we've also heard from lab and from people who came to, talk about what they wanted to see change architecturally in the building. They actually started talking about what they wanted to see change from a parking perspective in the building, which is not something that the architects can actually resolve for us. But, free parking is front and center in that slide. It is something that is very important to people in this community at the library. So we have common goals. The staff recommendation and the lab recommendation have some pretty common goals. One is to increase patron engagement. And we want to see that happen through more patrons feeling like they can come to the library because they don't need to have quarters or dimes or nickels on them to be able to park at the library, or they don't have to park, 3 blocks away and then walk up a hill to the library or anything like that. And we want the patrons to feel like they can stay longer because Lois, you told me a really great story at a meeting about seeing people while you're in the discovery room who had to wrangle their kids downstairs because they had to pay for their parking or re-up their parking. And you know they're probably not going to come back in after all of the work it took to wrangle kids out of the building to go pay the parking. So, you know, what incentive do they have to add another quarter or whatever and come back in for 15 minutes? So we're hoping by changing the technology and changing the way that the parking works, that we can really encourage more people to come to the library and more people to stay longer. You know, this is also an access and equity issue. We want to lift that burden of technology. And we want to really help people who have an issue with being able to pay for parking to be able to still use the services. With either 90 minutes or 3 hours, there is still an amount of time that is lifting that burden. So those things are sort of the common goals for what the solutions that we're both putting out there as our preferred solutions. Here's the lab solution. So when we talked about the 3 options for pros and cons, we talked about just a free for all and how that might create another barrier for access, in which you know, people are using that parking garage as a downtown parking garage and it's full all of the time and nobody can ever get a parking space. We talked about the 3-hour signs, and some of the feeling that we're understanding from urban development is that they see that as another potential free-for-all type situation where people are just moving their cars around in the garage every few hours, and they see that as another piece of the issue. So they really are really thinking about the kiosk option, which was one of the other options that we had talked about, but had talked about going with the signs instead. So the recommendation from the lab was the 3 hours free and using signage to implement that. And the current staff recommendation is to have 90 minutes free. This to me is a starting point. This is because one of the things that we haven't really talked about a lot in this is the fact that the library would have to make up the burden of the revenue that is lost from the parking garage, having the free 90 minutes or 3 hours. And I feel like it's a little bit easier on us to deal with that burden if we start with 90 minutes free and see what happens, because we don't have parking studies, we don't have enough information about what patron behavior is going to be when we move back into the main library, and we have a totally refreshed library building as well, to know what the impacts on the revenue are going to be and what that impact on us is going to be. And then the kiosk solution is the solution that urban development has decided that they are going to go with. And that is partially for enforcement purposes, because they are the ones who enforce the garage. And it's also partially because they see issues with the 3-hour signs that I never considered. And so that's the direction that they are going in. And just so you guys understand about the budget and the parking revenue, this is a snapshot of the last 3 years of parking revenue before we moved out of the building, and the mean and median. And so it's about $42,000 that we would need to make up in revenue. And we presented the seismic group subcommittee with what some of the options are that we're considering for that. That's not really something that this group needs to be thinking about right now, but it is something that I'm thinking about, and I'm thinking about down the road. If we have 3 hours and we have to scale that back because the revenue burden is too high, I don't want to be in that position, and I don't want the lab to be in that position. And I would rather start with 90 minutes and expand to 3 hours if we can, than have to roll something back. So that's where I'm coming from, and where I've been looking at the staff recommendation. As Norm said, we are looking at creating a staff report for the subcommittee and council, and it would include both recommendations, and any letters or anything else that you would want to write would be a part of that. So that's the presentation, that's the conversation, and I'm happy to hear any other thoughts from anybody, but I'm gonna stop sharing unless anybody has anything that they want to go back and see.
Why does the library specifically and no other city service have to make up this deficit?
Well, I'll take that one. So as it stands now, this would be just our initial proposal for how to deal with the lost revenue. But what we're planning to do for both our staff report and I expect as part of a broader conversation later on is look at this proposal when it comes to the lost revenue as a part of our budget process for next year. So we show right now a means by which we can deal with the lost revenue strictly within our own budget, because that's a way in which we can show that we can start this tomorrow if we wanted to, if we could. Of course, we won't be starting it tomorrow since the library is under construction. But by the time we get to, again, the budget conversation, there can be a much better discussion about how we should organizationally offset that lost revenue. We start with this because this is our department, and so we're the ones proposing a benefit, therefore we'll find a way to deal with the cost. But like all other parts of the budget process, it'll be a council decision in the end. This will be our initial proposal. They may want to consider others. I just think it's very prudent for us as staff to move forward with our initial recommendation being within those things that we control.
So it sounds like the city's general budget has been really getting a freebie from the library for years, and it would stop essentially, or largely stop if we went to 3-hour parking.
Well, I do think that the budget does go some, I don't know the specifics, but my understanding is that some of it goes to maintenance and to enforcement, because I believe that parking enforcement is a self-funded or mostly self-funded department. So I'm not entirely sure about the specifics of that though, Catherine.
And for what it's worth, just to give what I know of the stories of how this came about, part of the reason, of course, as Sarah mentions, for the charges for parking right now, the managed parking that we have in the garage, is because it is a precious resource for the downtown that would be very much consumed by other visitors if it were just free and open. That was a part, I think, of the origin story of how we ended up with our coin-opt paid parking setup we have today. I think another thing too is the maintenance is a real crucial thing moving forward. We want to make sure that we do have dedicated funds, particularly any funds that come from parking revenue, dedicated to maintaining that garage. And between those two things, you get a self-sufficiency for the garage that's always been in mind. So is it a freebie? Perhaps. I mean, yeah, I could see how philosophically one can see it that way. But it's also part of a broader scheme for managing parking in the entire downtown, as well as managing our facilities and their maintenance costs.
I wanted to address the issue of the free-for-all, the idea that people might be moving their car throughout the day. And that just doesn't seem to hold water as an argument when you think that we've got 3-hour parking downtown with a lot more employees down there. I don't know if that's a problem with them moving their cars around, but the library is even further from downtown, and I think much less likely to get people who are going to be moving their cars around. So I don't buy that as an argument. It seems inconsistent as well as unfair that the downtown patrons should have 3-hour parking. And then as you move away from downtown, you get free parking for all your other public services out of City Hall. And jumping over that, you go down to an 1.5-hour parking. Mm-hmm. It just seems unfair to library patrons, and it seems prejudicial to them, frankly. And and not understandable. And finally, the other issue of children's programming being 90 minutes, and the thought of, parents you know, being nervous that they're going to miss the, you know, miss the timing on the meter and have to pay. So anyway, I'll just let somebody else.
Along with that, right across the street at Pringle, they have was 3 hours parking, free parking for non-employees.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the whole neighborhood is metered too, which is not, I don't think that's a good thing either.
Well, if I may, just to reiterate.
Oh,
on
wait a minute, Norm.
Sure.
Francine had a question.
So, you know, there's also the question of parity with West Salem that has unlimited time of free parking. And I understand that that's because of an agreement with Roths, but it is easier for the West Salem residents to take advantage of library services compared to the main library. So, you know, I feel, and we are the only library in the Chemeketa system that has any parking fees at all. I submitted a comment to, I think, the subcommittee meeting that I want to make sure is heard, and that is that, you know, when we think about access, I feel it goes beyond things like ramps and bathroom doors and those considerations for disabled people, and it goes straight to looking at what are the barriers. And the Orange Boy survey that the city paid for, 88% of people responding saying that this was something that they would like to, that would increase their ability to use the library. And
I think we lost Francine again.
Yeah. Francine.
I do want to also state that Francine's comment was read to the record at that seismic meeting.
yeah, okay. I'm sorry, I didn't know if our group had the, you know, it's really a passionate issue for me because I've worked with poor people. So, and I've seen people crying in the garage because their kid had to go to the bathroom and they missed the thing and they got a ticket, like with strollers and other children standing there crying. Okay. So I think that those people need to, they don't always have a voice in every public setting. So I'm speaking up on their behalf.
Thank you, Francine.
Thanks, Francine. I'm going to put in my 2 cents. Since I've been on lab, I've been concerned about parking, and everybody knows it. And I'm not backing down on it. This is just me talking. It's very, very important for people who don't have resources to not have this additional barrier in place. And yeah, you might say 90 minutes. But for me, the 3 hours was a compromise. I want free parking. 3 hours is a compromise. 90 minutes is a defeat. I just feel very strongly about it. And I do agree with the parity with downtown. You can park for free downtown to shop, but what about where you want to get some information and where you might need to or be able to have a computer that you can access, or someplace where you can file you know, an unemployment claim if you don't have a computer. These are very important things, and access is one of our strategic goals. That is one of the main strategic goals, is free and equal access. So that's that. Anybody else have anything they want to say? I have some questions, Norm. So the kiosks, how much do those cost, and how much do they take? How much does it cost to, and who's paying for that? Is the library paying for the kiosks? And how much does it cost to monitor them?
Yeah, I cannot remember offhand the cost of the kiosk, but I know that it was relatively low. I want to say it was about 10,000
It was 10 to
for
12, somewhere in
yeah,
there.
yeah. Yeah,
For
and that's
each
for
kiosk?
acquisition for each kiosk, and that's for acquisition and install, I think. And install is relatively inexpensive. And so for what it's worth, to give perspective to that, I anticipated that the technology would be something to the tune of 50,000. So to do 3 kiosks in a good, convenient design around our new, improved garage is going to cost significantly less than that, almost half of that, which is really great news. And again, this is a great convenience because it'll be those credit card type uh,
You people have credit
kiosks.
cards.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, again, the Venn diagram on where we are all in agreement is much larger than it may appear, because all of these things are going to be massive improvements for all patrons,
It will
without a
have a
doubt.
cash option as well,
Yeah,
Lois.
that's
It
right.
has
That's
cash
right.
as well as credit card.
Gretchen?
Well, the business with the credit cards, the people that we're talking about who have difficulty with access, many do not have credit cards. We get back
Yes.
to the same thing of plugging the quarters and
It takes dollars. It's the same technology that they already have downtown. It does take dollars as well as credit cards.
And this technology is also at every managed parking street or district that you would find in Portland as well. So it's a pretty good vendor from what we understand. And yeah, between cash and credit, all people have so many more options available to them as opposed to just coins. So
And I do want to speak to Francine's point just a little bit that, yeah, we are the largest by far library out of CCRLS, and most of the other libraries of comparable size to ours do have, in terms of population, do have some sort of managed parking solution. So I mean, CCRLS libraries being what they are, and us being about 50% of the cooperative in one library, we like to compare with them when we can, but in some cases, in some situations, we look outside of those libraries to make the comparisons.
What do you mean by managed? Because I think some of that is equals free, because it is you get a verified, what is that called? You know, you verify that you've been into the library, and then you get your parking paid. My understanding was that besides the downtown Portland library, we are one of the only ones that you have to pay to access.
Eugene, Lincoln City, I believe Corvallis as well. I would need to check that, but
I've been to Lincoln City, and that you don't have to pay.
Okay, that's good. I remember Driftwood having parking meters, but I could be wrong about that. Okay, so I know that Eugene for sure does.
Isn't that a verified thing? Anyway, are there other departments that if their revenue drops, they have to take it out of their budget?
Yes,
So,
pretty much.
Oh, really?
Oh, absolutely. So this doesn't happen very often. And for what it's worth, the barrier is so great that that's probably the biggest reason why there has never been a serious conversation of the sort that we're having on something like this, is because, frankly, in every other circumstance, most departments just sort of let it end right there. So as an example of this, even just within our own department in community development, we've had a great need in planning to have more planners. There's been a lot of development going on. You all can see it all across the city. And we used to traditionally go to the city manager and then perhaps to council asking for new FTEs when there was no real increase in the general fund. And so this is a similar situation where we're seeking more of a share of the general fund, in our case, for the needs of more FTEs. Well, once it was very clear the minute that I got here that we could not ever get those new FTEs without some way of offsetting the cost, we decided to raise our fees with planning, and in doing so get to what we call 100% cost recovery, which was a doubling of many of our fees in order to then pay for the FTEs that were needed. And it takes that kind of maneuver, unfortunately, given our circumstances, it takes that kind of maneuver for us to be able to get the resources that we need to keep up with demand. So that's one example in the department. And then this is another example that's very similar in the sense of there's a cost, we have to find a way to offset that cost. And so we're going to start with what we propose, and we're going to take that forward for consideration, just so that doesn't become the finals, that we just don't end the conversation right there for free parking in some case. And then when we get to the real discussion about how to offset that cost, we'll again have that more formal conversation with next year's budget. So we've done it a few ways in this department alone, and just about every other general fund department that I can think of would face, well, in fact, all of them would face the same barrier for anything that was not determined to be a major logistical need, like say, like the only case that I can think of right now where we have not required that is something where we had to hire or fill a position, create a position for the sake of some kind of state mandate. I think we've done that a couple of times in our financial or HR departments, but I'd have to go back and look. But no, this is very common for us to find a way to figure out how to take care of those costs.
So if a police officer or the police department doesn't get as many tickets, then they have to lay people off?
Well, I'm not sure about that necessarily.
Well, they're not bringing in the revenue.
Well, the revenue also comes in from permits. So when we talk about tickets in that sense, you know, if we're talking about parking tickets, there's parking tickets themselves, and then there's also permit revenue.
Like a speeding ticket.
Oh, I see. Well, they being general fund employees, already established within our organization, I don't think they have that same kind of cost recovery. I don't think that's been a priority for council at all. They certainly don't establish quotas in order for the police to make money for their positions. And in our case, with planning, you know, we do, because it is a fee for service. It's not something that happens for all residents. When we do development review, it's for those who want to seek and do development. So it's a different dynamic there in terms of the service. Again, there will be examples throughout the history of the city's budgets where top priority, major acute needs have to be filled, in which case the city will find a way to fund it. But when it comes to something like this, where we're trying to add a new benefit that does not currently exist, and that does create a negative impact on the general fund and the financial sustainability of that fund, cases like this, we have to at least start with a solution that can offset those impacts.
Katherine?
So a question to Norm. At what point does the city council consider a small property tax increase?
Well, as you may recall, there was a major decision made by council just a couple of years ago, well, I guess over 2 fiscal years ago now, maybe, to create an operations fee that was put on the utility bill for all utility payers. And that was, I can't remember the exact rate now, but anyhow, that was an important fee that was put on in order for us to plug the fiscal deficit that we were starting to really see grow within the general fund just again about 1.5 years ago. Since that time, over the past 12 months, I and several other department heads and the city manager as well have gone out to the various community outlets to talk about a public safety fee as well. That would be I believe, I can't remember now exactly if that was just a straight increase in our property taxes or if that was a separate fee unto itself. I just can't, I'm pretty sure it's been so long now. This was just, and yet it was just 8 months ago. I'm pretty sure we established this to be a payroll tax that would be thus capturing revenue not only from residents who were on payrolls in the city, but also from out of town employees who come into the city, use our services, and are on our payrolls, but then leave and are not participating in our property taxes. And so that was something that we went again many months talking about with every community group that we could be a part of, every neighborhood association. And the intent of that was to dedicate those additional funds to our public service needs, or excuse me, public safety needs. And then right about the time that we were poised to bring something forward to council to consider as part of a ballot initiative for this November, was that about the time that we were ready to come forward with that was about the time that the pandemic arrived. And that changed our entire circumstance to where now it's not something that I think we want to consider until we have a better understanding of our situation looking forward. And I don't think it's something that council wants to consider either. So it is an active conversation that we're still having. And it was really at a point of real close action by us as a city executive team, and then also by perhaps council. But again, the pandemic has really caused us to stall and really try to consider just again what our situation is going to be.
Thank you.
Okay. How would people like to proceed with this? Is there a motion concerning our recommendation? Do we stick with the recommendation we have? What do folks on lab want to do? Catherine?
Am I muted?
No, you're fine.
Yeah, I move that we keep the recommendation we have for 3-hour parking. I don't know if Francine wanted to add her concerns to that motion.
Francine?
Yes, I would like to. And that would be that the evening hour free parking and Sunday free parking are continue to be free and not subject to the 3-hour limit.
So it sounds like the motion is that the Library Advisory Board recommends that we have a 3-hour free parking in the library parkade, with the understanding that Sundays would continue to be free and evenings after 6 would continue to be free. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
I second it.
Gretchen seconds. So actually okay, let's just do it now instead of waiting for action items. Can we do that, Sarah? Is there, okay.
You can do whatever you want, Lois. Go for it.
I really can't do whatever I want because I would just do it. All in favor of the recommendation that I just previously said, say, maybe give a thumbs up or somehow on your screen. I don't see, Callan says yes. I don't see Bill. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know if Bill left. Okay, so we have, anybody opposed? Please do a thumbs down. Does anybody see Bill? Is he still on?
No.
I think Bill's
No,
gone.
I'm not my call.
Okay. All right. So we have approved that recommendation, and I will write a letter to the subcommittee and to the city council, and I guess I would send it to the mayor. I will consult with our wonderful city librarian, Sarah, about the best way to do that, and we will move on. Thank you, Norm, for your input.
You.
Thanks, Lois. And I'm just going to go ahead and say on the record that because we are writing a staff report for council and for the subcommittee, that we would happily, and we are including both recommendations in that staff report, that we would happily take that letter as an attachment to that.
Okay, and then I would like to be notified when that goes to council so that we can have people there to testify about our recommendations.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Update on sheer wall art selection, Francine. What did you want to say about that?
So Amanda Wojcik, who is the chair of the art department at the University of Oregon, was selected to do the art for the sheer wall, which is inside the library. And on June 23rd, there was the most recent meeting with her was a Zoom meeting on June 23rd. And she engaged with all the members of the selection committee, who are the Salem Public Arts Commission's members. I think there's 3 from there. There's the project management team from the construction, and Gretchen and I from the lab. I was the alternate, but Gretchen.
I couldn't attend, was what she was going to say. And so Francine attended. And Francine, we can't hear you.
We lost Francine again.
That's just an update on that. So
Okay.
she was selected from a group of 33 original people who put submitted requests for qualifications, and then the group was narrowed down to 6, some of which were teams of those 6. Sarah is the chair of that group, and the decision to select her was made in February. So there was kind of a pause between February and June. Maybe it was early March. It was early March, actually. I think it was March 3rd and the June meeting. Okay.
I would like to just add on to what Francine said and give a little bit more information. Amanda Wojcik did come down and look at the space where the art is going to be last Friday, and got a tour of the library, and has been thinking about lighting, and has been able to work on the mock-up that she has started, and is planning on doing some public engagement and outreach and things like that, at least via Zoom in October, probably, or towards the latter part of the year.
Great, thanks for that.
I
Go
have
ahead.
a question for you, Sarah.
Yes, Francine.
Since she's chair of the arts department at the U of O, was there ever any discussion about whether her students or graduate students would be contributing to this art?
Not that I know of. I believe it was meant to be her sole work, but I can check on that with her. As far as I know, there's been no discussion of that whatsoever, though.
Okay.
Okay.
Francine, we lost you a little bit, but that's okay. Did you have more?
My question is that she is.
We lost you again, Francine.
Okay, it looks like she's saying never mind. Okay, Francine, you also had lab funds as an agenda item. Did you want to talk about that?
Only if my connection is maintained. So I brought up last time that the question of the public, the artists' exhibits that have been in the main library lobby for a long time, and whether my question is, who took care of that? How was that those artists selected, and the art procured? Was there, I mean, I'm just wondering how that all happened. Is there going to be a space dedicated for that in the redesign? And where do the funds come from, say, setting it up, maintaining it? Maybe does it need to be insured, you know, if it were to be damaged while it was on display? So I had questions about that. And I also wondered if that public using that as a way to bring the community into the library might not be something we all would want to endorse.
Those are great questions, Francine. So Lily actually coordinated it and handed it off to Clarissa, but at the time that Clarissa came on and Lily moved into her new role, I don't think we really had any gallery. So Clarissa, I don't know if you can speak to whether or not you even did any of the work of coordination with this up to this point.
I haven't.
Yeah, so so Clarissa will be back in charge of that at one point. Sorry, Clarissa, I think you already knew that, but just in case. When we move back, she will be in charge of that. We will have a gallery space for that. And we, as far as I know, it was a volunteer. You could apply to show your art in the library, and Lily would work with the artist on that. And then the artist did have their contact information and sometimes put prices on the art to potentially sell the art as well.
I just worked with them the last month. Like the person had already been selected.
Yeah. So you hadn't been part of the selection process?
Not of the selection process.
Gotcha. And we didn't, there was no money involved, right, Clarissa?
No, because if anybody was interested in the art, they would contact the artist directly.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay, so the reason I brought it up was as possibly how the lab funds could be used, but it's because I didn't know where all that came from. Okay.
So do you have an answer? So do you feel like you've got that answered, Francine?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So strategic plan, we sort of touched on, and maybe next time we can touch on that more, because we're going to be involved in the FRP or PRF.
Now I'm doing it. RFP. Yes, you're going to be involved. So next meeting, I will probably be asking for somebody to volunteer to be on that committee and to be the person who helps select the consultant to do the full strategic planning.
Okay. So people be thinking about that. Maybe you have some special skills that would enable you to pick a consultant for planning. We do have an ex-planner on our board. So anyway, I think that brings us to elections, and this is just an information piece. At our next meeting, which is September 9th, we will be having elections. We will elect the chair, a vice chair, and a Salem Public Library Foundation liaison. So be thinking about these things and whether you would like to run. We probably, Sarah, will not have our 2 vacant positions by that time, or we don't know.
No, we won't have them by that point.
we won't have them. Is there any thought that people might want to wait till those people come on? My thought was that they would have no experience of anybody running if we even if we waited till October. My thought was to Sarah.
I was just going to let you know that when I talked to the applicants that I've talked to, I did let them know that the elections would be happening in September, and then they would probably not be able to be a part of the election process because of the timing of everything.
Yeah,
were they told that they might attend the meeting just to become familiar, even if they're not?
I did send links so that people can watch via, there may be some people watching via YouTube right now, in fact. So I shared with them how to watch where the agendas are and how to watch the meetings if they shared interest in that, yeah.
Okay, and at our last meeting, we did amend the bylaws that we don't have to have a nominating committee. And my thought was to not have a nominating committee. Does anybody want to speak to that they feel like there should be a nominating committee or should not? No. Okay, so we already had an action item. Does anybody else have anything for the good of the great library advisory board that we have? Sarah.
I have a couple things that I forgot to mention in my report. One of which is that Eunice has contacted me and is likely going to be invited to the October meeting, October or November. Eunice
Remind us again about Eunice.
She is the long range planner who is working on our Salem.
So
she
great.
had contacted me and wanted to talk about where they're at in the process and some of the things that have come out of the process about the library, and obviously also our policies that Lab has created and sent for consideration to the our Salem folks. So I just wanted to let you know that.
Just a minute. So she's coming to the October meeting?
Unless somebody wants something else, but that's the idea right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Anything else, Sarah?
Probably a million things. I'm also looking at, I know you guys were interested in the budget process. And so budget process starts in November for the city. So I'm hoping to have in the October or November meeting, possibly the November meeting, someone from finance to come and explain and answer questions about the budget process. So if you guys have any questions that you're already thinking about, it might be good to get those from you to prepare them for what they need to share with you about the budget process. And then I also wanted to say that a part of the, Lois had requested that the lab budget funds be sent out as a part of the city librarian's report. So they were attached at the very end of the very bottom of that report. If you have any questions about that, please let us know. And I just wanted to make sure that that was out there.
Great. Yeah, I was looking in the times of COVID when I had nothing else to do at our powers and duties. And actually one of our duties is preparing and submitting through the library administrator to the city manager annual budget requests. And I remember the first year that I was on the lab board, somebody actually went from lab, went to the budget committee and gave a report. And we haven't done that since. So I really think, I'm just speaking personally now, that we need to have some kind of a heads up about the budget and do our duty of submitting the budget through Sarah to the city manager. And I will share with her some information that I have from past of how lab looked at the budget. I mean, we're not going to be like, spend $50 more on this than that, but so where we're spending our money and why. That, I mean, to me, that's basically what we need to know. And if we're spending more money in a certain department than not, why is that? So we have that to look forward to. Anything else? Catherine, you look perplexed.
I'm good.
This is
Okay.
Callan here.
Okay. Hi,
Oh,
Callan.
I was just going to say that the date of our next meeting, September 9th, is also my birthday. So I feel like that's important for you all to know because I expect singing.
Well, happy birthday early, Callan.
Okay, we will sing. I thought you were going to say that you would miss the meeting.
No, I can't think of a better way to celebrate.
Well, that is so sweet. That's awesome. Well, maybe I'll have a little cake or something.
All right.
Okay, so with no objection, I will have this meeting adjourned. All right, bye everyone.
Thanks.